Today we're going to talk about modifying the location of your Electric Commander plugins directory and some of the pitfalls of doing so incorrectly. The plugins directory holds the resources necessary for CGI and GWT plugins to operate and display their UI content. When you install a plugin, Commander creates a new directory for it within this plugins directory. Commander also creates a project for the plugin that functions just like any other Commander project and is used to hold procedures, schedules, properties, etc. If desired, the location of the plugins directory can be changed. The important thing to remember, though, is that both the Commander server and the web server need access to its location. To change where Commander looks for its plugins, navigate to Administration, Server, Settings, and Plugins directory and modify that property to reflect the new directory path. I'll just copy the existing path to the description so I can easily change it back later, and then fill in the new path. Then move over the contents of your default plugins directory and restart the server. Here's where the interesting things can begin to happen. If you stopped here and you had copied the plugins directory to their new location, leaving the original plugins directory still in place, you might not notice for some time that your system setup is broken. The Commander server and web server are separate entities, and they both need to know where the plugins directory is and have access to it. So far, we've only told the Commander server about the new plugins location, and the web server is still looking at the default location. If we had removed the original plugins folder after we set up the new one, we would have noticed something was wrong right away because the web UI would have become significantly broken. The web UI makes use of quite a number of plugins for displaying its dynamic content, and with those plugins missing, there would be gaping holes in the UI and lots of error messages. But if we had just copied the directory, the web UI can still use the plugins from the original location, and you might think everything is fine until you try installing a new plugin that contains UI components. Now that we've specified a new location for the plugins directory, any new plugins we install are going to be placed there and not the default location. This means the Commander server will have a record of the new plugin and will have created the plugin project, giving us access to any procedures or properties defined by the plugin, but the web server will have no idea where the UI content is located. As a consequence, the plugin will show up in the list of plugins, but the help link will be missing and the UI will be inaccessible. To notify the web server of the new plugins directory, we must log into the web server's machine, if it's actually located separately from the Commander server, that is, and use the ecconfigure tool to set the path to the plugins directory. Executing this command will immediately restart the web server, the Commander server, and the agent, so plan accordingly. At this point, you've now correctly modified the location of your plugins directory. The important thing to remember is that doing so involves updating the Commander server and the web server because they are separate entities, even though they frequently reside on the same machine.